episode is sponsored by Raise Tech, end-to-end IT solutions for your business growth.
Hello, everyone. We are on the Agile Couch once again, our fourth season, continuing. And for the second time already, we have Nancy Beers on the Agile Couch, just this time for a proper longer-term conversation.
Cool. Yes.
Welcome.
Very happy to
Thank
be
you
here.
for joining once again.
Well, thank you.
And Nancy's from Happy Game Changers.
Yes.
Couple of words, really fun sounding name, what that is.
Happy Game Changers is me, actually, for now. I am going to build my company to 2 people, so that's 100% growth. A very excited moment. But what I do, I play games with people to learn or unlearn things.
Okay.
And this can be behavior or knowledge. So I have games for soft skills or human skills like team building or communication or building psychological safety or topics like that. But since I also studied business informatics and I love IT, I also have a lot of games around more technical topics to explain technical topics to non-technical people, or also, for instance, a game to explain GDPR law, privacy law. But also games
Is there
around.
a game for that?
There's a game for that. Of course there is. But also, yeah, I'm also a bit of a security nerd, so I really love games about security awareness and things like that. So yeah, it's. I have collected around 160 games in the last couple of years that I can play in a professional setting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the question. Isn't games just for kids?
No. Yeah.
What is those games for adults or?
Yeah, I tend to like the idea that we never really grow up, right? We're all just big kids. It's very natural and primal to play. It's something that comes natural not only for us humans but all mammals. So it's a very natural thing to do. It's not something that is hard or difficult or weird, although somewhere I don't know, around the age of 14, 15, it becomes silly to play, and then we sort of forget about it altogether. And we think like the world is about Excel sheets and sending emails to people and being in boring meetings. Yeah, but you can actually incorporate play into your work to make your work a lot better and more efficient.
So basically we play all the time, just the form of the games change probably.
Yeah, that's we don't have a Dutch word for it, but in English there's a distinction between the word play and the word game. So a game has a fixed set of rules basically that we decide on, or which is in the manual to how to play a game. And play is more free format. It doesn't necessarily have to have a goal outside of having fun and lose yourself in the moment, but you can play with that literally. So you can use playful formats and games and combine those types of forms of play to actually get a message across, or learn something new, or experiment with something. You create a space where you can be somebody else, or where maybe you can change your character, or so. Yeah, there's a lot of gains in playing games or playing.
Talking about games, right? So what is the benefit? I mean, why to play games when you can do hardcore workshop on the same topics or something? I don't know what that brings extra.
There are a couple of things, but one of the things that I like a lot, and it's also linked to something I heard at Ale before. We talk a lot as agile coaches or scrum masters about failure, and we should fail often and we should fail more. But I think it was Sylvia who said it's most of the time it's lip service. So we talk about it, but when we actually fail, we will get slammed for it anyways. And when you put it in a game setting, it's way safer to actually fail. So you fail in the game more often, and it's maybe even a little bit fun to fail.
Yeah.
Because you can learn from it, and we know that as agile coaches, right? That you learn from failure. You, of course, you learn from success as well, but failure, that's where the real power is. Gaming or playing can provide a safer space to actually fail together or fail by yourself, and figure out what are the learnings here.
All right. Talking about where to use it. You mentioned a number of use cases, but are you using it with usually with teams, with executives, with who are the profiles that can engage in that? Is it harder to engage, I don't know, C-level executives versus regular team?
No, I'm going to say something very sexist now.
Yeah.
There's nothing easier than getting men to play, and there are a lot of. Unfortunately, C-level is still a lot of men.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what it is, but kids are more on the surface with men. If you take a ball and you throw it in a room, men will play with it.
Like
No,
dogs.
that will kick it. They will, yeah. I know I'm sounding very sexist right now. Sorry for that. But it's fairly easy. While and I'm generalizing a lot. I know that.
No
But
problem.
women, we are taught to behave and be quiet and hush, hush, and just be nice and be pretty, or I don't know. But it's harder, maybe from what I've seen in my day-to-day business. It's harder for women to get out of their comfort zone and just go crazy.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
interesting observation. Wouldn't think about it actually. So, yeah. All right.
So, but I play with executives as well as software development teams, and of course I can adjust the games, because a lot of the times I encounter people who tell me I don't like games, which is okay, because usually they have this image of playing games that's like playing a board game or Monopoly, or like a simulation game that isn't all that much fun. But for instance, during Ale, I was playing Black Stories on the community wall. Black Stories are riddles, basically, which you have to solve with binary questions, so yes and no questions, to figure out what happened. If someone died in a field and there's a package lying next to them, what happens? And you have to figure that out. Usually, software development teams or engineering teams, they like puzzles. That's their day-to-day job,
Yeah.
right? They're solving puzzles all day.
Yeah.
So this is the type of game that specifically works very well within a group of engineers, because it's yet another puzzle. So depending on what kind of group you have, there is, I think there's for everybody there's a type of play or type of game that they love. And that can be, play is a very broad spectrum. I mean, making music we call making music, we call it playing.
Yeah.
Playing music. But we also play sports.
Oh yes.
And we play, and when you go to a theater, there will be a play there. So it comes in so many ways, shapes, and forms, and you can all use them in a professional setting. And I don't know about you, but if people, if I come somewhere and someone says, "Oh, so we're going to do a role-playing game," I'm like, "Oh, do we have to?" But there are other people who really, really love that.
Yeah.
So there is a type of form of play for everybody. So I think everybody loves play. Only it depends on what type of play. There are so many shapes.
Yeah, that's a good observation. If you just look, even those board games, there are different types of board games, and people usually will like play some sort but don't like others.
Right.
But no one will say that I don't like any board games. That's rarely. It's just other type of board
It's
games.
really rare. Yeah.
Have you been invested in gamification topic in any ways? Sort of,
What's gamification in your?
well, as far as I understand it, as far as I researched it, is putting game mechanics to an ordinary process or
Okay, yeah.
setting, right? So I don't know. We have a process, but
Well, I
I
think
will
how
I
you
will make a sort of board game like, and if I reach something, I get a star, a badge, and level 3 or something like that.
also that depends on teams. I mean, sales teams are very good with
Yeah.
these. They love like competition and things like that.
Yeah.
So yes, most definitely. You have like apps for getting your daily step count, and you have, and I really think a Duolingo is one of the best examples, I think, of learning a language and getting streaks, getting badges, getting. So yes, absolutely. I think that's amazing to motivate people, and especially when you have a more neurodiverse brain. So that you have some problems with your dopamine levels from time to time. Gamification is a perfect way to trigger your dopamine, right?
Yeah.
If you get a badge, it's like, it's there. I got it.
Feeling of achievement.
Yeah, feeling of achievement. Actually, and I went the day before yesterday. I went geocaching with I think around 10 people here at Ale. I was like, we're going on a treasure hunt outside, and I the first geocache we actually found in Vilnius. Look it up, geocaching.com. The first cache we found in Vilnius, it was hidden in an air shaft, and there were like 10 adults there, like, yes, we've got it. And of course, the aim was to find the geocache, but the side effect was that we were outside and had a healthy walk.
Yeah.
So you can use gamification to trigger behavior. So that's absolutely. I think it helps a lot to motivate people to trigger behavior or change their behavior to certain things. So yeah. Oh, we have guests.
All right. Yes. Continuing on the games, right? There, we just talked about that there are various games, different games. How do you choose and pick the games for different circumstances, or I don't know, topics, whatever that could be?
Well, of course, in the beginning when I just started out with it, it was a lot of hit and miss sometimes. Um, Teams that I work longer with, I know what I like or dislike, but sometimes it's I come up with a game and it didn't work. But after, like, let's say, 5 to 6 years of playing various games in various settings, you have like this top 10 list of games that these will always work. Uh, so it's a lot of gut feeling as well when I talk to a customer or a prospect. Like, okay, what are your learning goals? What do you really want to achieve? What's the question behind your question? I tend to figure out what the problems are, but like a lot of companies are not that different from another company, because there is no company that is not going through change or transformation in any way, shape, or form. So I have games about change management and what change does to people, feeling wise. And I know these are my little diamond games that I can just play anywhere and just add extra games to them to build a whole afternoon of serious games that will actually learn the whole team something.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's facilitating loads and loads of games at events like this to figure out how the mechanics work and how people react to it, to gain some experience, and based on that, it's a lot of gut feeling.
Okay, but basically there are, you can say, top 10 problems companies are facing, and then you can have top 10 games that could address those sort of and more or less you will, I don't know, probably at 80%
So
chance
it's how
hit
to cope with resistance when doing change. It's a lot of the topics that we address as agile coaches as well, right?
Yeah.
I think every other company where you go to as an agile coach or a scrum master, you will encounter the same type of problems. Of course, every company is a bit different, but a lot of the problems are quite similar, I think.
I have a sort of a I don't know, a doubt or a question about how does that work long term, right? Because in one way we can have a session, right? A couple of days, a
Yeah.
day, whatever. Have fun, both learn something, understand
Yeah.
something, right? But then we go back to our I don't know,
Regular day-to-day work. Yeah.
regular day-to-day, boring stuff that's going on. How to make sure we keep, first of all, those learnings, or should we repeat those games, I don't know, constantly? I mean, do this activity time to time, or is just some sort of a secret of how to make the findings actually live in the end?
More living. Yeah. I think there are some small tweaks that you can do to your. If I look at it from Scrum perspective, because I have been a Scrum Master for 10 years, you can add certain types of gamification to your Scrum events. So, for instance, if you have a refinement session, it will ask a lot of creativity. So start out with some kind of fun drawing game, so you can challenge developers or engineers to get from the left side of their brain to the right side of the brain, right? So they can come up with more interesting and creative ideas maybe than they would have if you just pulled them out of their codes and say, okay, now we're going to refine these 3 stories, for instance. So if you look at it like an asset, adding it to your Scrum events, because it's helpful to have better quality events, then you just incorporated it in your work as a Scrum Master, for instance, or a product manager or a product owner. Also, talking to stakeholders, there are a lot of games about business value. So try to figure out, use a business value game to show, okay, so you provided me this list with 100 priority 1 items that you want me to build the coming 3 sprints. Let's play a game with those, because I can already upfront say no to that. So let's figure out why I would say no to this and how we can come to a yes and. So there are small playful exercises that you can use in day-to-day work very easily. So it doesn't have to be a 3-hour board game to learn new skills. Like I said, I used Black Stories once. I had this team full of Italians. Okay, this is also not very nice for Italian people. I love Italian people, by the way. But they have an interesting time concept. So when you say, let's meet at 2, it's probably they're not there at 2. And then I started all my sessions with a Black story at the beginning of the session. Like, okay, let's start with a Black story. So I started the story and I said, okay, this is the story. Now figure it out. And in matter of a couple of weeks, people came early because they want to join in on the game.
That's the trick.
So it was nudging them to be in the session on time.
Nice.
In a nice way, rather than saying, hey, I want you to be in time because my time is precious, right? Like that would be the Dutch way. But this is a very nice of nudging people into changing their behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
But should it be is it more usual for you to just do those one-off time of workshop, or do you more of a living with the team and trying out different things?
Up till now, it was a little bit of both. I've been doing 24 hours a week of Scrum Mastering within a fixed team where I used a lot. I helped the product owner with stakeholder management while using games. I did a Lego session with software architects to build a model of the software we were about to go to build in. And there's no better 3D modeling tool than Lego.
Oh yes.
Right.
Oh yes.
And it really improves the conversation about what you are building if you have built it in 3D first, because you can point at things and agree or disagree on things because you can actually see it and touch it. So the quality of the conversations about what are we going to build is so much better when you add playful formats like this.
Yeah.
And trust me, if you put a box of Lego on the table, people will start building without any instruction whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because
It's like
it's
doodling.
fun. Yes, like doodling. It's fun. People will do it. And so and then you add the like the serious layer to it, and you're there.
Yeah. Sounds easy. Sounds natural.
We already know how to do it. Actually,
That's the beauty of it.
you've been doing it like since ages. I'm not. There's this thing called Lego Serious Play, which is a official facilitating technique or a range of techniques. More focused on soft skills, by the way. I use it. I like to use it for hard things like software architecture. But there's also Lego Serious Play that's more soft skill oriented. I am not certified by choice because I think it's very expensive. And there's a book, and I know how to play with Legos, but some people might disagree with me on this one, but okay. But it's beautiful and it can work magic because we've been told from like whenever we went to school to use this part of our body only. And there's a whole world beneath. And if you start thinking with your hands, so just go with the flow and just see what happens, it might give you very cool new insights on things that are unconsciously somewhere there and just come out whenever you start playing with your hands. You're like, oh, but this is what actually is going on, what I feel or what I'm perceiving here or what's happening within the team.
So in a way, it's amplifying the natural things we already
Yes.
sort of haven't used, right? Just put it on the spotlight in a way, right? Okay, yeah, that's in my experience. And one part of my career where I've been working as consultants in various topics, and we were sort of hooked on games very much, and using simulations and games and creating our own games. I did that myself, creating like simulations and so on to learn something. Yeah. The one thing I remember the most, actually, interesting to see whether you talked about the failures, but basically the best sort of learnings come when the game didn't actually went according to when people lost. Basically, you will design a game so they would lose. You basically know that 95% of players will lose at this game because you put out some sort of a trick there, right? When you're designing a simulation or whatever. Just to bring up some learnings as you were mentioning, right? And by design, because we want to learn these and these things. So I don't know, is that your experience as well, or or winning is the better technique to?
Well, you have competitive games and cooperative games, of course, and I think it's very cool to play with those different types as well. But one great example I heard, and that was actually a digital game. I like physical games, but digital games are also very cool. Was from an Amsterdam company who built a triage tool for nurses at the emergency. What's it called in hospital?
You mean the?
Yeah, where
the initial place where you get
in the hospital.
by
if you're in a car accident, you were brought there. And do a triage there very quickly, and they could do that in a game on an actual patient that was in the game. And at first, all the players did it in the right way, so like the patient would survive. And the second round they played, they started to experiment with too much adrenaline in it and see what happens. And the builders of the software weren't expecting that at first, so they had to program it afterwards to make sure what happens when you give people too much adrenaline. But which is actually a good thing because you cannot do that in real life.
Exactly. That's something that
So yeah, what actually happens? So, and you can learn a lot from that. So that was I love that example of the game didn't exactly go as planned because yeah, the players will always find another way to play the game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
make it most of the time it's making it easier, because game designers, and I studied game-based learning and game-based game design, and what I figured out is I'm more of a facilitator than a game designer. I think there are two different traits.
Okay.
So I'd rather have other people design the game and then I facilitate it, because I like that more, which is also fine. And it's also good that I understand game design, so I know why a game works or not. But what I also heard from the people who do that a lot, game design, is the play test a lot. So try out play a lot to figure out what works, what doesn't, how will people play with it. At very early stages, paper prototypes and just go for it. It's just like software development, basically, in that sense. And also, if the game is not really it's not really working out, probably has too many things in it. So get rid of the dice if you don't really need it. Get rid of, most of the time, if you take out things out of the game, so not try to add things, but less is more.
Yeah.
The game will probably get better when you get rid of things.
I don't remember the author of the words, but it's a good phrase, that perfection is when you don't have what to remove. It's not when you have what to add, but it's when you don't have. One of the painters, actually, one of the famous painters, but I don't recall the actual. I will post it in the comments.
It's okay. we will look it up.
Yeah. But the notion is that you draw something and then you start taking things out, and if there's nothing else to take out to actually keep the message that you want to deliver, then it's perfection.
Then it's perfection. Cool.
Yes. With this, last probably, questions. If we want to, I don't know, read more about Nancy Beers or the games, where can we find that? Where can you look you up?
I post most content and things on my LinkedIn. So that's just Nancy Beers on LinkedIn. Beers is in the drink, so that's not that hard to find, I guess. And my company's website is happygamechangers.com. And there you can find blogs and things and information, and you can reach out to me if you want to find out more. And yeah, just play it forward, keep playing. I'm really
just
eager
start
to
doing that.
start doing that. Yeah, change the world one game at a time. That's my mission. So.
All right. Thank you very much. And
thank
we
you
will.
too.
Let's start playing. Yes, thank you for coming here once again.
Yeah.
Hope to meet you somewhere in the future, maybe one of the conferences. Nice to have you in Vilnius.
Budapest next year.
Budapest, yes, exactly. Now we know where it will be, Budapest.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, so let's meet in the Budapest or maybe someone else.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming, and have fun games.
Thank you too.